Hi there everyone, and welcome to another Red Gaming Tech video. My name is Amata, and this time it's going to be a little bit of an opinion video on Steam Greenlight. I imagine that most of you know what this service is by this point, but just in case you don't, basically what it is, it gives indie developers a chance to get their games on Steam by basically, if they get enough votes and all that good stuff, then the game will be put on Steam. So basically it gives games a chance to get on Steam that might not have otherwise passed Valve's process or what have you, whatever it is that they look for in games to put on Steam. And yeah, the idea is pretty damn good, obviously. I mean, there's more than a few junk games that have somehow ended up on Steam that have just been pretty broken, and you kind of wonder how the hell did this make it when some other really good game didn't make it. So yeah, I really like the idea of basically, if other people rally together and vote for their favourite game, then, you know, it can get on Steam, which is obviously a pretty huge deal. Most people will be put off buying a game if it's not on Steam for pretty obvious reasons. However, they've actually recently implemented a change to the Greenlight service by charging developers $100 for each game submission. Now, there is obviously a reason behind this. Valve is just going to do something like this willy-nilly. As you might imagine, with this service, a hell of a lot of bad games and spam ends up being put on the Greenlight service, and I think what Valve was hoping for is that the thing would be self-moderating and that users would basically vote down the bad games and the junk and the what have you, and that, you know, the bad stuff would basically be filtered out and only the good games would remain. And unfortunately that's not really happened, to be honest. There are some promising titles coming up, like Project Zomboid and Paranormal, for example. At least that's a game I really hope that will be put on Steam, because it's a game that I really want to try out myself. But somehow a few really bad games like Seduce Me, which is kind of what it says on the tin, one of those games where you have to seduce a promiscuous virtual lady and all this other stuff, and bad Half-Life 3 jokes, and basically a load of old shite that you wouldn't want on Steam. So Valve's idea of self-moderation by the users hasn't really worked out, but I just wanted to give my opinions on not only Greenlight itself, but this $100 charge. But the one reason I don't really like this is because it punishes everyone for the sake of a few bad eggs. And that's kind of the same principle as DRM, and anyone who's paid attention to my rant videos or just my news videos in general will know that, you know, generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of DRM in general. And while I can understand the need to put a bit of a wall between spam and Greenlight, you know, that's fine. That's not what I have issue with. I have issue with the amount. If they were, for example, charging $30 or $20 for the paywall, then, you know, it would basically have the same effect and wouldn't put these bedroom developers out of pocket, because $100 is a hell of a lot of money. That equals to roughly, I don't know, £80, maybe 70, £80. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head how much that would be in English money, but that's a hell of a lot of money, to be honest. That's like food money for a month for most people, especially if they're, you know, an indie developer that's basically doing it in their bedroom, or a group of people doing it in their basement or whatever. So it punishes a lot of people for the sake of a very few bad eggs. So yeah, and considering that it's a bit of a lottery, to be honest, I mean, you could put your game on Greenlight, pay your $100 and not even get on Steam, because obviously it has to get enough votes on Greenlight in order to be put on Steam. So $100 for a gamble. I think it's going to put off a lot of talented game developers from trying to put their games on Steam and on Greenlight, which is obviously going to defeat the purpose. And yeah, all of the proceeds from the paywall money that's paid to Steam Greenlight does go to charity, which is all well and good, but that still doesn't change the fact that most indie developers are not going to be able to afford $100 from their back pocket, especially if they're a bedroom developer or what have you, like I've said. And I don't really agree with the punishing the many for the sake of a few. To be honest, I think that charging, say, even $50 or $20 to $30 would achieve the same thing without punishing so harshly, especially, excuse me, when putting your game on Greenlight isn't exactly a sure thing. In fact, you know, the chances of it actually making it through are not that high. You have to garner quite a bit of support, get quite a few positive ratings, and all that good stuff for your game to actually make it through on Steam. So you could pay the $100, put yourself out of pocket, and basically live off, you know, dirt for a month or what have you, and then you get nothing to show for it. It's unfortunate that the community has not been able to regulate itself, but to be honest, all of us have lives and all that good stuff, and we might not even see these bad games. We might not even come across them, and some people might vote it up because they think it's funny, or because they got too much time on their hands, or maybe, you know, the person who made the bad game or the bad joke game or whatever gets all their friends to vote it up and all that good stuff. There's still ways to abuse what's happening. So I can understand Valve's logic in putting a wall between the spam and Greenlight. That's fine, I don't have an issue with that, as I said, but I feel like this is just going to spell the end of Greenlight at this rate if they don't kind of course correct, because I think a lot of people are going to be put off by this pretty steep price. You think, oh, $100, it's not that much. But to some people, that's a hell of a lot of money. To me, that's a lot of money. That's probably, you know, the money that I spend on food in like maybe a month or two, because it's only just me after all. And considering that it's basically paying $100 for a lottery ticket, then yeah, I don't really agree with this, to be honest. I seriously think that Valve should, you know, put something like this in place, but they should just charge less. It should be, say, $30 instead of $100. I mean, you could even, say, charge $10 and it would put most people off who are going to, you know, put a joke game on Steam, or goodness stuff, or all this good stuff. I mean, just because your game doesn't necessarily make it through to Steam doesn't mean your game is bad. It just means that it didn't have enough publicity, or not enough people knew about it, or what have you, you know. It doesn't necessarily mean that your game is bad if it doesn't make it through. So before you go like, oh well, you know, if you can't make it through, if you don't believe $100 is worth your game, then no, that's just untrue. There's so many games coming onto Greenlight, and obviously when you've got the trash games as well clogging up the works, it's just, you know, hard. No one's got the time to sit there, go through every game, clicking and seeing which ones are actually worth their vote. You know, that's not really going to happen, unfortunately. So, you know, it's got really nothing to do with quality. I mean, you know, for example, a game developer or someone, like for example, say someone who's really big on YouTube, just as an example, wanted to make a game, they could just basically get all their subscribers to vote for their game, even if the game's awful. You know that would happen. And some good developer who doesn't happen to have, you know, 1 million subscribers at their behest is going to lose out. So it's got nothing really to do with quality. It's basically a popularity contest. So to be honest, I think that they need to have the same system but just charge a hell of a lot less. I would say $20, maybe 30 at most. I think that would put most people off, to be honest, without bankrupting these bedroom developers. Anyway guys, hope you've enjoyed this little opinion video / rant. As always, I really want to hear your opinions on this. What do you think Valve should do? What can be done against this flow of spam, bad games and Half-Life 3 jokes and all this all good stuff? You know, what do you think Valve should do? I mean, do you agree with what I've said, or do you disagree? You know my opinion, I want to hear yours. So yeah, it'd be really good to hear from you, so hit us up in the comments if you have something to say. I would very much like to hear your opinions. Anyway guys, enough of all that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.